In this video, I'm going to tell you why the Sony ZV-E10 is perfect for video. And I'm also going to show you some examples of what you can expect out of the ZV-E10 and why you may not be getting similar results. Now stick around to the end though, because I'm going to give you not one, not two, but 3 solid tips that will help you shoot better talking head videos right in your home. Now you may or may not know this, but the Sony ZV-E10 uses a sensor to capture light. Now the light comes through the front of the lens and out of the back of the lens and then hits the sensor. Now the camera then takes that light that hits the sensor and changes it into digital information that's stored on your SD card. Now by this point, you may be asking yourself, what does this have to do with getting better video? Well, I'm glad you asked. By understanding how camera sensors work, we can then get the best picture out of our cameras. And one thing to know is not all cameras have the same type or size sensor. You have all kinds of sizes like medium format, 35mm full frame, advanced photo system type C or APS-C, also known as crop, and micro four thirds, and there are many, many more. Now, cameras like the Sony a7S III, the Sony FX3, the Sony FX6, and many more have full frame sensors, while cameras like the Sony a6400, the Sony ZV-E10, and the Sony FX30 all have crop APS-C sensors. And when you hear the word full frame or crop sensor, this just refers to the size of the sensor inside the camera. The full frame sensor is larger while the APS-C sensor is smaller. So you may be thinking, wait a minute, I've heard this before. If the Sony ZV-E10 has a smaller sensor than a full frame camera, doesn't that mean that it's not as good? Well, you would be absolutely wrong. But don't let that make you feel bad, because a few years ago that was the case. A larger sensor almost automatically meant that it was superior to smaller sensors. But then something happened. Something very interesting happened. I'm technology, and you need me. See, I'm the architect. I built everything. I made everything what it is. See, before you can make phone calls, you have to tie letters to a pigeon. The pigeon, if he got sick, he might not make it to where he's gonna go. But I gave you guys a telephone. I gave you guys GPS. You know, and I'm sick of you guys too, because you're never satisfied. It's never enough. No matter what I do, it's never enough for you. You need more somehow. It's just not enough for you. I bring you guys the iPhone. Well, how come it doesn't have a better camera on the front? How come the battery isn't bigger? It lasts all day. How much longer do you want it to last? Huh? I give you guys cameras. Oh, it doesn't have stability in it. It doesn't have IBIS. You didn't even have a camera years ago. You were writing on pieces of paper and papyrus. And now you're complaining because a digital sensor I gave you isn't good enough? Well, you make it. Why don't you put yourself together a camera? You do it. Huh? Ungrateful bastards. Thank you for that spectacular presentation, Mr. Technology, and thank you for giving us the Sony ZV-E10 and making it good enough to be perfect for video. So you may be asking yourself, okay, so I get that technology has changed things, but I'm still not able to get good video out of this camera the way I've seen other YouTubers who review it. Well, do you remember early in this video when I said I'm gonna give you not one, not two, but 3 solid tips that will help you shoot better talking head videos right in your home? Well, that time is now. The first key to getting better talking head videos is lighting. Now, don't worry, I'm not gonna tell you that you need to buy a bunch of $5,000 lights and a bunch of other gear. I just want to explain to you why your current setup isn't giving you the results that you want. Now, most of us are using our ZV-E10s to shoot in our homes, but there are a few problems that your house lights create when it's time for you to shoot video. The first problem is controlling your lights. Now take a look at your room. More than likely, you have lights that are not able to have their brightness adjusted. And most lights are made to have 2 settings, on and off. That's it. That's all you get. Now this is 100% okay for normal tasks that you're doing around your house, but the problem arises when it's time to do video. Now with video, you need to be able to control the intensity and the brightness of the lights, which in turn allow you to create depth and contrast in your shots. Now depth is created when lights in your scene hit different objects at different light intensities within your scene. An example would be when the background may be darker than the foreground, which brings attention and detail to the shot. Or if you light a wall that is directly behind you at a different color or intensity than the light that's hitting you. Now, contrast is the difference between the bright and the dark areas in your scene. Creating depth and contrast can be very difficult and almost near impossible to control while only using the built-in lights in your home ceiling. This is part of what's making your videos look different than the ones you see on YouTube. Now, other YouTubers are using external lights to create depth and contrast, or just using the light coming from a window. Now, I highly recommend getting a light with a softbox. Now, the second problem with your ceiling lights is light direction. Take a look at your room again. More than likely, you have lights that are not able to be directed, aimed, or pointed in any specific direction. Now, if they're in a fixture above you, well, that's just where the lights are and they really can't be moved around. Now, once again, this is okay for normal tasks, but not for video. When the lights are fixed in one spot, you can't control things like shadows and fill. Shadows and fill are what allow you to shape light. Shaping your light allows you to do things like wrap the light around your face so that one side is a bit darker than the other. And by using a large softbox along with a grid, you can create nice, beautiful lighting that wraps around your face evenly and produces a very pleasing picture. Now, the third problem with your ceiling lights is the light quality. Now, you probably never thought about light quality because you really never had to. Well, until now. Have you ever taken a video and noticed weird lines going through your footage or maybe even flickering? Well, this is due to low quality lighting, and your camera shutter speed will reveal this low quality lighting problem. Now, all of these things are adding up to why your videos don't look like what you wish they looked like. So how do you fix all these problems with your lighting? Well, it's actually very simple. And the answer is on your wall. Can you guess what it is? It's the switch. Since the lighting in your house is more than likely presenting all kinds of issues, the best thing to do in most cases is to simply turn it off and don't use it. Problem solved, and you guys have a great day. Okay, not really. At this point, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, how am I supposed to record videos in the dark? This is where adding lights comes into play. Now, although you will have to add your own lights in order to get the look that you're looking for, it doesn't have to cost a lot. And to start, it's good to at least get one main light. And the main light is called the key light. Now, this light will do most of the lighting on your face, and you can always add other lights as you see fit and as time goes on. Now, if you want a great light that doesn't cost a lot of money, take a look at the link up here. I'm not sure what side it's on, but it's on one of these sides. I'll post a link in the description below as well. Now, let's move on to the next tip to help you get better video from your ZV-E10. The second one is composition. Composition is the arrangement of your scene and things in your scene. This includes things like the camera angle, the focal length of the lens you're using, and following lines and shapes within your frame. In other words, composition is setting up your shot so that it's interesting and it draws attention to whatever the focal point in your frame will be. Now, in this case, the focal point will be your face. Since your face is the main part of the scene, you must remove or add things that will cause people to look at your face and not be distracted by other things in your scene. An example of bad composition would be something like this. You see how things around me are not drawing attention to my face? It's causing you to look around the scene instead of focusing on me and on what I'm saying. Now, in addition to the things in the frame, there's a lot of headspace in between the top of my head and the top of the frame. Since this type of framing isn't what we're used to, it automatically draws your attention to the fact that there's a big space above my head. Now, the flip screen on the ZV-E10 makes it easy to fix this problem. The ZV-E10 allows you to apply guides to your screen so that you can line things up evenly. Now, to access these different framing guides, turn your ZV-E10 on and put your ZV-E10 in video mode by pressing the button on top. Once in video mode, press the menu button and navigate to the second camera at the top and go to page 4 of 9. Now, highlight and select marker display and turn it on. Now, once you turn on marker display, navigate down to marker settings using the scroll wheel on the back of the Sony ZV-E10. Select marker settings by pressing the center button in the middle of the scroll wheel. And once selected, you'll get a list of options: center, aspect, safety zone, and guide frame. Now, let's start with the center option. By selecting the center option, you're able to put a crosshair in the center of your screen. Now, whatever you put the crosshair on is what will be the exact center of your composition. This is useful for lining up your talking head scene. You could place this crosshair right in between your eyes or whatever you want the center of your frame to be. Now, if you are vlogging with your camera and you need to film something more than once, like that's gonna be in the same spot, you can use this crosshair to line those things up as well so that you can come back to it and get the same framing that you had before. Now, the next marker setting is aspect or aspect ratio. Now, if you're planning on shooting a video for widescreen or for another format, you could choose these guys to help you frame up your shot. Whatever is on the inside of the lines is what you are keeping when you record. Now, changing the aspect doesn't actually record a wider picture or crop picture. Neither does it record the lines you're seeing on the screen. These guys are just to show you what part of the video is going to be displayed on screen. So later in your editor, when you crop it, everything that you recorded is where you want it to be. Now, next we look at safety zones. The safety zones started way back in the 1950s with CRT. That stands for cathode ray television, if you wanted to know that. But since these TVs were curved, certain information would get cut off at the edges of the screen. So the Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineers, also called SMPTE, came up with an area of the screen that would keep information safe from being cut off as long as it was inside this box. Now today, the safe zone is mostly used to make sure that SD or standard definition TVs still keep important information within this defined box or safe. Now lastly, we have the guide frame. The guide frame is used for several different things. It can be used to make sure that your subject is level or perpendicular to the ground. Let's say you're putting your camera on a tripod and it's facing you. You can line your eyes upon these lines to make sure the camera is level. You can also use the guide frame to take advantage of the rule of thirds. Now, without getting too deep and lost in the woods with the rule of thirds, the rule of thirds is a composition guideline that just helps to create interesting compositions that draws the viewer's eye naturally to the subject in the photo. The way this works is by placing your subject, which would be you in this case, in one of the left or right thirds of the frame. Now for YouTube, this may not be ideal, but you often see this technique used in professional interview setups, and you can use it if you want to, just letting you know it's there. Now, by using these framing tools, you can stay on top of your composition while making sure that things are lining up correctly and you're drawing your viewer's eyes to the part of the scene that you want them to go. Now, the last tip to help you get better talking head video from your ZV-E10 is audio. Now, this one here is huge. It's been said that audio is bigger than video when it comes to media. People will sit and watch a grainy video, but will not sit through a video with bad audio. And that's true because I've done it myself. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is bad audio? Well, I'm glad you asked. Bad audio is audio that is inaudible or distorted. Bad audio is audio that is inaudible or distorted. Now, there are many things that can lead to bad audio, but let's go over the most basic things that are more likely to be making your audio bad. Now, the first one is not using a mic and just using the internal mic on your camera. This is by far one of the biggest contributions to bad audio on YouTube as a whole. There's nothing worse than when you click a video to watch and the person is using the built-in mic on the camera, which is 10 feet away from them, while the dishwasher's going and the window's open and there's a guy weed whacking the lawn, and it's just completely drowning out their voice and you can't hear anything that they're saying. Now, the way to fix this horrible issue is to use a microphone. Now, when it comes to getting great audio, you don't need to buy a mic if you have a cell phone, actually. Now, most cell phones nowadays come with great microphones built in, and it can be used in your video. Now, if you want to check out a video specifically dedicated to audio, check out the video above, and I'll post it in the description below. Now, the second reason you're getting bad audio is mic placement. Now, microphones do best when they're able to be placed within a few inches of your mouth. Now, if they're too far away, you'll have to turn up the gain on your mic, and this will introduce noise or hissing. Now, if you're too close, then you will get what we call plosives, which is air coming from your mouth going into the microphone. Now, this happens on words that start with the letters P and B, and any other words where puffs of air need to come out in order to form your words. Now, a good way to test this is to put your hand up to your mouth and talk. The words that you can feel are the words that will come across as plosives in your mic and will cause pops on systems with subwoofers or large speakers and distortion on smaller speakers. Now the fix for getting great audio from your mic is to buy the correct mic for the job. There are a lot of options when it comes to mics, and it's easy to get lost in the weeds. And when it comes to talking head videos, I personally am a fan of shotgun mics. Now, although this might sound like a weird name for a mic, there's actually a reason. It's because it's shaped like a shotgun barrel, and when it's aimed correctly, it will pick up detailed sound directly from the source that you're aiming it at. Now, the real beauty in this mic is the fact that it rejects sounds from the back and the sides. This also allows background noise and other things that will cause you to get bad audio to almost be eliminated. Now, shotgun mics are not magic though. They require some understanding of mic placement and usually work best when they're boomed overhead. Now, a tip when using a shotgun mic overhead is to put a small piece of high color tape at the end of the mic. And this helps to make sure that your mic isn't in the shot when you're recording, because the last thing you want to do is to get home or to start editing and you realize that there's a mic hanging down like right here in front of you. I've had that happen before. Now I'm using the Sennheiser MKE600 and I love this mic for a lot of reasons. Now I'm not going to get into the details on this mic, but I will say that it's a great mic for a great price. Now I'll post a link to the mic in the description so that you can check it out. Now the last part of audio with the ZV-E10 is audio recording levels. Just like exposure in video, audio needs to be controlled so that it doesn't clip. This is the equivalent to overexposing your image. You want to find a balance when inputting audio into your camera so that it isn't too low or too loud. Now, the way to do this is by using the audio record level feature on the Sony ZV-E10. To get there, press the menu button on the back of the ZV-E10 and navigate to Movie 1, the second camera icon at the top. Once there, press the down arrow once and go to page 3 of 9. Here you will see audio record level. Now, if this is grayed out for you, make sure you're in video mode. To do this, simply press the mode button on the top of the camera. Now, once you're in the menu, you will get this bar graph indicating where your gain level is for your camera. Keep in mind that this level is both for the internal mic and any external mics that you plug into your camera. This means that if you use the internal mic and it's set at a perfect level, when you plug in your external mic, your levels may be way off and you need to readjust them because the internal mic and your external mic are going to be totally different. Now, by default, the Sony ZV-E10's mic input level is set to 26. Now, this is okay for the internal mic, but again, this may cause hiss or distortion when you plug in your external mic. Now, with the Sennheiser MKE600, I find that setting the level to 11 works very well. This way I don't get clipping on the signal coming in, and I also don't get noise because the gain is set too low. Now, a tip to help you get the best levels is to start with your gain level at 11. Plug in your mic and adjust the distance that you're from the mic and speak in your normal voice. Now look at your meters on the back of the ZV-E10 and make sure your levels are peaking right around -12 but under -3 dB. Now it's okay for them to go over -12 just a bit, so don't be too concerned, but you just want to keep it in that range. Now with these settings, you should be able to achieve a nice sound coming into your camera. Once you are ready to edit your footage, you can always bring your audio levels up a bit in your editing software. And I may do another video on editing with the Sony ZV-E10 as far as audio goes. So let me know if that's something you're interested in that might benefit you. Now, if you have a ZV-E10 or any other camera and you haven't recorded any video because you don't feel comfortable doing it, I want you to take this information in this video and create your first video. Now, I hope this video was beneficial to you and it motivates you to get your confidence up so you can start producing videos. Now, if you have any questions or any positive feedback, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below. But until next time, I'll holler at y'all later. I'm out. Peace.